Hello, good morning, Texas and Louisiana. We are live on Smart Money Culture TV. I have my trusted brother here, David Porter. He's joining us from Dublin. I am in Washington, D.C. How are you, David?
Doing well, getting back in the rhythm here after a beautiful bankers holiday celebrated the day after St. Patrick's Day. They definitely know what they're doing on this great holiday. St. Patrick was the man. He took care of many people. He was a shepherd here in Ireland. There were a few praises in the mountains for him, and he's not a saint for no reason, and he's not loved across the world for no reason. A great guy. And we will be on the business flow here all day on your TVs twice. And I'm looking forward to today's show. How are you, Bruce?
Doing it, man. Doing it. I am doing it and having a good time. So interesting, as it always is, right? Interesting day already that we have going on. Of course, the Bank of Japan. Uh, the Bank of Japan is it raised interest rates for the first time in 17 years. Okay, and that has set off a cascade of events. Of course, everything was kind of ready for a bit of a meltdown anyway. You had, of course, Solana was up into the stratosphere, and actually, from what I understand, we're going to have somebody from Solana joining us in the last part of the show as well, and we'll have him come on, the Solana gentleman, on in the last quarter at the 46 mark. So if he can come early, that would be great. And get on here. And then, of course, you have this, of course, that was so high. Bitcoin was so high. We've been saying, of course, there has to be a pullback, guys. A pullback is healthy, all these types of things. And, of course, here we are, a fairly major pullback across the board. And it's interesting, too, because, of course, the Bank of Japan is, they have had negative interest rates for 17 years at various rates of negative, and this now going into they raised it 10 basis points, but we went into a global kind of meltdown. I mean, the markets were all down. They seem to be trying to recover now, but again, everything's puffed up so high. And what the real basis, the problem that we have here is that people are losing trust in the central banking cartels. And, they're starting to figure out the central banks are a cartel. And one of the big problems that they're having, of course, with this Bank of Japan, I mean, it's only 10 basis points, right? I mean, that 10 basis points is 0.1%. Okay. That's the way the basis points are. 75 basis points is 75% of a point. 50, that's the basis point. So one of the biggest problems is, though, that everybody is they're just already baking in the inflation that's coming. So you see over in Japan is that they just raised interest rates literally $15 or something like that per hour for a lot of different workers. It's across the board. It's baked in with the unions. The unions are pushing it forward, and that people are already they're figuring on the inflation, and the same thing that we're doing here. The inflation is skyrocketing, and people are starting to say it again. I see it in my feed. Oh my gosh, this is nothing compared to what's coming. And oil is sticky. It's sticky over $80. And it's like one of those moments where we went north of $80. I don't know if we're going to return back anytime soon. It's sitting there. I mean, slightly down today. It's like 25 basis points. 0.25% down or something like that, but it's still at $82, and they're going to try to keep that price down as much as they can. But the inflation is the answer that everybody has, is to print more money, and that's what Biden wants to do. He wants to print more money, give more money to people. Bank of Japan wants to print more money, give it to people. The central bank in Europe, they want to print more money, give it to people. So the answer that the central banking cartel and the people drunk on printing money have to answer inflation is to print more money, which makes inflation worse. And also remember, when the central banking cartel issues you money, and the central banking cartel owns the Federal Reserve in the U.S., but it's the Bank of Europe and Bank of Japan, and on and on. They've distributed themselves throughout the world. And if you don't have a central banking cartel running your country, then the U.S. is at war with you pretty much constantly. Just look at Syria and Russia. If you want to, and Gaddafi, he didn't even last very long. If you question that, so the first title I put was, is this the kickoff of the total global financial meltdown? Well, maybe that's too dark. These things have they have kind of a way of, there's a lot of really smart people, of course, that get involved. So it may not be the meltdown. We are due a big meltdown. Housing is way up. Inflation is through the roof. And now, if it'll be interesting, and I know Matt talks about it quite a bit on the in the middle segment of the show, the Market Watch, and that is that what is our central bank going to do? What is the Federal Reserve going to do when they meet next time? Are they going to raise interest rates? I don't think so. I don't think they can. But inflation is out of control. They're now the Federal Reserve. So right now, they've always said our whole life, 2%. We want the 2%, 2%, 2% inflation. And 2% inflation just means that's what they think that they can tax you, because inflation is a tax. They're just printing money, and they're diluting your money, and that's tax. But 2% is what they felt like they could get away with without everybody revolting, okay? Because, of course, it's not a tax from the government. It's a tax from the central bank. And it's not really even 2%. You and I both know everything is up probably 20% at least. So however they fill their, figure out their numbers, now they're saying, okay, well, 3%. 3% is going to be the new target. 3% inflation rate is what we're going to target. So already, I don't know, I always say double or triple or quadruple what these guys say. So if that means we're going to 30 or 40% inflation rate, that's going to be pretty rough. Now that could really be a reality as well. If we are at a point where, oil, it could be a reality anyway, but if oil, of course, okay, if oil continues to rise, that is you're going to feel that in your pocketbooks too. That's going to be really something else. So, excuse me. Starting to get over it. I got a little bit of the Wuhan flu, I think. And the Wuhan flu. What's the talk about inflation over there in Europe?
Well, they're not so thrilled about the inflation. And here in Ireland, they just had a vote about keeping their constitution. And so they all voted not to change it. And so it's going to stand another generation here.
Speaking of the Constitution, Elon Musk has done a series of his interviews. Of course, he did with Don Lemon. Don Lemon's complaining X is suppressing his views. He has 400,000 views of his interview, and Elon says, "Well, he's got 188,000 over on YouTube." So nobody wants to hear you, Don. Oh man, that guy. So, but a series of interviews, because speaking of the Constitution, one of the things that's embedded, of course, in the United States, in the history of the country, people came to the United States because they were persecuted and prosecuted for speaking out loud and for doing what they wanted to do. But freedom of speech was not something that existed, and that's why they came here. And so it is embedded in the bedrock of our Constitution and everything: the right of free speech. Freedom of speech. And what we have going on right now, of course, we have, I hate to just say it like it is. Well, I guess it's kind of my style, but you have this diversity, equity, and inclusion woman, DEI or whatever. Obama, you can't, it's very clear. Biden says, I'm going to put a black woman on the Supreme Court. She's going to be a black woman. And then we get this woman. And I mean, since she's in, I mean, I don't even know how long she's been in. One of her first time I ever hear her talking, she's talking about how we need to, like, it scares her, and what are the limits of free speech?
Right.
I mean, it's like the government needs to be able to. I mean, it's unbelievable. Let me just see if I can pull it up real quick. I simplify it a little bit. So when you listen to her, it's you have to kind of pull it apart. But the Supreme Court's a mess. I'll cover that a little bit in a minute. It was supposed to be because here we go. All right. Here we go. I mean, it's like unbelievable here what we have going on. Wait a minute. Let me see if this is the right one here. So. Yeah, all right. Let's work. So this is Hanaju Brown Jackson. And when I say that she was put there because of diversity, equity, and inclusion, the president said he was going to get a black woman, period. He didn't say he was going to pick the best person. He didn't say any of that stuff. He says, I'm going to pick a black woman, and then that's who we got. So it's like Don said on his interview. Well, no, they're not lowering standards, Don Lemon said to Elon. They're not lowering standards for diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's not right. And Elon says, I think you're making a false statement. So if the bar is to hire somebody because of their skin color and their gender, then you are not hiring for the best person for the job. I mean, that's the case. So by definition, the bar is not as high if anyway. So let's listen to this. This is scary Marxist stuff that this woman comes out with here. This is a judge on the Supreme Court of the United States.
Justice Jackson?
Well, my biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government in significant ways in the most important time periods.
I don't know if you heard that. Your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government.
I mean, what would you have the government do? I've heard you say a couple times that the government can post its own speech, but in my hypothetical, kids, this is not safe, don't do it.
So I know it might be kind of harder. So in your hypothetical, the government can, of course, publish its own opposing view. But, she says,
is not going to get it done. Kids, this is not safe, don't do it, is not going to get it done. And so I guess some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country. And you seem to be suggesting that that duty cannot manifest itself in the government encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information.
So I'm going to just take that out of the box just a little bit because it's probably hard for you to hear her. It's easy to hear me because I'm yelling all the time. But she's saying you're implying that you're using the First Amendment to state that it's not good for the government to step in and stop speech that goes against the narrative that they think is right. So no free speech. I mean, this woman is a complete Marxist, believes in no free speech. No free speech to this woman. Absolutely. How in the world she got in the Supreme Court is clear. Of course, it's unbelievable. Back to just a second here.
Or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information. So can you help me? Because I'm really worried about that because you've got the First Amendment operating in an environment of threatening circumstances from the government's perspective, and you're saying that the government can't interact with the source of those problems.
And Your Honor, I understand that instinct, and I guess what I tell you is
Unbelievable. Now, I think this might be the same clip, but if not, it's
Review has the first.
yeah,
Mr.
same clip. I mean, she
My
really
biggest concern
made that dropped a lot of people's jaw.
Right.
Yeah. Like, what in the world is she talking about? Anyway, let's get back to the markets. We have the great Matt Dixon joining us here. 15:34 in the broadcast. Matt, how are you, sir?
Hi, good morning. Good morning, David. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Good.
Doing good, sir.
Yeah, a bit of
So,
a
crazy day in the markets as usual, I would say, right? It's never a dull moment for us.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying just be cautious, do protect positions because it's been quite a down day. Shib with hat, I know David mentioned that the other day. Was it Shib with hat? I think with hat. That was down 40 something percent just about an hour ago. It's now down just 20%. So crazy volatile day, and these assets are so volatile.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm just jumping onto sharing screen with a couple of the assets. Have you got that, Bruce?
Yep.
It's there.
Good.
That looks volatile.
That looks volatile to me.
And that's Litecoin. So that's the
Yep.
one we've been following, and it's actually followed our expected trajectory really well. We've said it was a W. This triangle to the side was next wave, and then we said an ABC for the Y wave to the upside. That's precisely what happened. And then price, it actually went pretty well to our target area, somewhere around here. And then has been falling quite sharply ever since. So we're right near the bottom of this movement here now at $78.36. So Litecoin has come down a lot. Like in an up market, you always expect to get some kind of pullbacks. Same with the down market. I mean, this has actually peaked a couple of weeks ago now. It was on the 11th of March that Litecoin peaked. I think it's 11th or 12th of March, Litecoin peaked at $105-ish, somewhere around there. Yeah, $105. So we're now down more than 25%. Around 25% we're down actually from the peak just 2 weeks ago. So these are volatile, and as I always say, Litecoin, when you compare it with, for example, Solana, and I mentioned Solana because I've been focusing on it quite a bit lately, and I'm going to get somebody who's really knowledgeable on Solana. I'm going to, if it's okay with you guys, going to bring them onto the show probably tomorrow, just to look a bit more in depth into what Solana does, its use cases, and how it's involved in business, both retail and institutional side, and the potential it has. I think it's a real bright one, a bright spot, although obviously it's fallen actually more than most of the market today. I just see Shib with hat has just dropped back to 42% down. So it's so volatile, unbelievable. 20% swings in a matter of minutes. Absolutely crazy. And that's what you get with these meme coins that we covered yesterday. The only meme of the main ones that's actually up at the moment is this BOEM, which is Book of Memes. And that's up 3% today, 3.5%. So that's pretty amazing. It was I think it was actually done just as an experiment, just to see how it would work. This Book of Memes came out and absolutely rocketed. I think it got to something like $1 billion market cap in no time at all. So that's been a major success. A lot of the others are down today, and that's what I said yesterday. A lot of the existing ones, they've already pumped, and they're probably now on decline because they've got no use case, most of them. The only one that does have a use case is the first one, Doge, and they've, I think, developed their own blockchain and now becoming having a proper use case and utility and everything. So even Doge is down nearly 11% today. So it is definitely a down day. So
what is the doggy at? What's the price?
Doggy is at 0.01, so 1.5 cents. Yeah.
No. Doggy is at 12 cents. 12 cents. You're looking at the wrong one. Doggy was at 20 cents.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at probably with hat, I'm guessing.
Something, yeah. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It did have it
Anyway.
was at 20 cents, had a big pullback the other day down to 14 cents. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was sitting around 12 cents right now. I can tell you.
Okay. Yeah, I've got it here, 12 cents. Yeah. 0.12, 12 cents, 12.7 cents. Yeah. So maybe I was just looking a bit cross-eyed, perhaps.
Could be a good entry point, but we could be in for a much more of a pullback here.
Yeah, I mean, we had this is Doge here, Doggy, so had big upside here, impulsive fashion. We've had what appears to be from the top an A wave. I mean, if we open that out a bit, you'd probably see that the move down was actually impulsive here, but that can be an A wave. This is a choppy B wave, very typical of a B wave. All this overlapping is very typical of a B wave, and then we could be working on a C wave down. So this could, and actually at the moment, I would suspect it probably is just a correction. And I do think we're going to push to new all-time highs, most likely. Obviously, there are no guarantees in trading, but I think that's the case across the board. I mean, that's Doge. Let's just look at Solana and just look there. You can see again, that's had quite a deep little pullback. When I first saw the pullback a couple of days ago, I was actually listening to another commentator on it, and he said, whatever you do, don't buy the pullback yet, because pullbacks are normally in 3 waves, which is absolutely correct. So we've got an A wave down, a bit of a B wave consolidation there, and then looking on a C wave down now. So at the moment, it's looking to be probably corrective to the downside. So probably we are going to push, as I mentioned yesterday, the likelihood is we're going to push much higher on these assets. But you would expect this kind of correction. We've had some massive appreciation in recent days and weeks, and even Bitcoin. I mean, let's just jump to Bitcoin. Where's Bitcoin disappeared to? There it is. Bitcoin right down at 63,000, and it was 73,000 only a couple of days ago. So again, most probably just a correction to the downside. I think a lot of people have been taking profit. I understand, if you look on the blockchain, you can actually track what's happening, who's selling, and I think it's just a matter of profit taking at the moment. There's still massive demand through the ETFs, and I suspect this is just purely a natural pullback, and markets do not move in one direction. If they did, they'd just go to the moon straight away, and there'd be no opportunity really for trading. But you get nice pullbacks, and it's actually a great opportunity to dollar cost average. If you still believe Bitcoin or other assets are going higher, then these pullbacks are a welcome opportunity to possibly add. You don't want to be adding as the market's going up. You always want to add to any position. And when I say add, you don't really want to go into any particular position or asset 100% of whatever you want going to commit to it. So say, for example, if you were going to commit $10,000 to Bitcoin, it would be unwise to put it in one go. So we have the term called dollar cost averaging. And so you enter at different levels. You never know quite where the bottom or the top is of any asset. You never know quite where it is. And that's why you do this dollar cost averaging to come in at different levels. So a lot of people became excited, and we saw that with the fear and greed index, where we saw it was at extreme levels. And so we expected there to be some pullback. So you don't have to take profit at these high levels if you think Bitcoin's going higher, which it most probably is. But when you get a pullback, if you've not committed everything along the way, when you get a pullback, it's a chance just to add a bit more to it. And then that means you're not always adding at the top of the market. If the market pulls back, you can just increase your position. Or if you're in a really profitable position, perhaps you've got all your assets into Bitcoin earlier on, as it goes up, you can actually start to take some off the table, so the very opposite. So kind of dollar cost averaging in reverse. You can take some profit. If you've doubled your money, why not just take half the money out that you've got, and then you've got all your investment back 100%, and the other half is just riding depending on the market. So there are many different strategies you can use to trade profitably. So XRP is yet another one that we've got this kind of support level. And when I say support, we can see it spiked down here a couple of times. We've had a few entries into this sort of little area here of support. So I suspect that might well be another area of support, somewhere around the 54 cent mark, for XRP. So we had a big move down, which was probably an A wave, an ABC move up for a B wave, and now we're probably moving down the C wave. That would make up a correction to the downside. Corrective means against the trend. And so we should then move into the impulsive phase, which is again more upside likely to come for XRP. So again, these are just buying opportunities. I mean, you don't know for sure it'll get down there. So if you're looking to buy, again, you can dollar cost average in, maybe buy some at these levels a bit more and a bit more as price declines. And then you hopefully get a good average price. And when price does appreciate, then it's looking really good. Even Ethereum with the amazing Denken upgrade that they worked on, and you can see here again from the high we had of over 4,000 just a couple of weeks ago. Again, around like Litecoin, around the 11th, 12th of March was the high on Ethereum, same as Litecoin. We've had an A, a B, and it looks like we're pushing down the C wave. And right now we're at a kind of support area, and again you can see these spikes down that basically price tested lower previously and failed at this kind of support level, this narrow band here. And that so far has acted as support for Ethereum once again. That's now the third time it's acted as support. So this is a solid support. So if you were looking to add to the position, now might be a sensible, again, we're not giving advice, but it might be a sensible area with a stop loss just below. But I think in this market, you don't want to catch a falling knife. You might want to wait until you see some solid rebound from this level, because I think that the market may still have a bit more downside to come possibly. And it's good to look at oil, as Bruce was saying. The oil is, really pushed a lot above that sort of 80, quite a bit above the sort of $80. This consolidation area, you can see it's consolidating around this area. Wasn't able to really break above or below. And now we do seem to have had some kind of little break to the upside. It actually looks as though it's most likely in 5 waves with a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. And what I will just do, I'll just like to measure that wave 1, potential wave 1, using this Fibonacci measuring tool. Just transpose it to the wave 2. Well, certainly actually, maybe we just completed a wave 3, 2.618 here, just spiked that level. May get a little bit of a pullback now, and then possibly more to the upside again. So looking as though this may be in the midst of more upside yet to come. And we've seen there's still no resolution in the Middle East. So I don't know, I missed the first part of the show. I don't know if you discussed that at all, but you did mention yesterday, didn't you, that there's more trouble in the shipping lanes and so on. Is that right, Bruce?
Oh yeah, the Houthis have now decided they're shutting down the Indian Ocean as well, which is big. And then Netanyahu is really under fire. We've been around long enough to see him lose power before. He was in power before. He lost it for a while, and of course they went after him. I think all kinds of law, legal stuff, and then somehow he got back in power again. It remains to be seen how things are. I mean, they got protests in the streets over there. The Houthis now are saying that if you don't stay out of certain areas of the West Bank as well, that they're going to attack.
Yeah, I mean, remember, I've long said that April is a potential time of flare-up, and I've got some reasons for that I won't go into now, but we really need to keep an eye on this because this could potentially hurt the market short term. We are seeing the dollar index pushing quite a bit higher. And I know everybody was saying dollar's dead. Just from the look of this chart at the moment, it actually looks from the top as though we've had an A, a B, and a C wave down. If that is the case, then we could be working on an impulse to the upside. This does look kind of impulsive with these strong moves towards the upside. So potentially higher, but a lot of this depends on what's going to happen tomorrow with the Fed meeting, with the Fed chair giving not only the announcing the rate, the interest rate, but also commentary. There'll be a press conference later, and he'll give commentary for what he's thinking about the economy, and they will press him with hopefully some hard questions. Although I do notice they don't seem to ask very hard questions these days. It used to be a lot tougher for the Fed chair. They seem to be asking friendly questions, which isn't good because he needs to be held to account to actually try and delve into what are the real thoughts about interest rates, about the growth in the economy, the state of the economy, and why have they basically, well, I mean, they're saying, again, they're just sitting on the fence. And I think they need to be pressed hard for some answers. I think that's what effectively politicians should be pressed. That's what they're there for, to answer to the public. So,
What time is the meeting tomorrow?
well, it's 10 o'clock Dubai time, whatever time that is your time.
Okay, it's probably 2:00. I'll do the math on that.
Yeah, so 10 o'clock. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, and we start this show at 2 o'clock Dubai time, so you can work out the difference very easily there. But it's 10 o'clock Dubai. Yeah, so dollar index is looking quite impulsive. I mean, again, most people just thought it was going to fall through the floor, and it hasn't. It's pushed back up quite strongly there. So that's interesting.
Well, I think the Bank of Japan had a lot to do with that as well. It kind of sent the that currency spiraling. It appears the U.S. dollar thrusting the U.S. dollar up. I think a lot of they're trying to move into dollars right now.
Yeah, I'm actually just going to pull up the yen basically. So USD. Let's just see if I can pull it up. I just wanted to see what's happened to it there, or US dollar yen. Let's just see what's happened with it. Look at that, absolutely, as you say, massive appreciation. So I'm not quite sure why. Everybody was expecting the interest rates. We actually mentioned it on last week's show, didn't we? That they're going to exit this negative interest rate of 0.1% and push it up to zero. And that's precisely what's happened. So why the market suddenly reacted so strongly to it, I'm not quite sure. But that in FX terms is quite a big appreciation. We're now, though, we're always talking about resistance and support and so on, and we can see here we're around that sort of resistance area up here, where basically the market. So let's just see if it can push through there. If it can't, then it will probably head back lower. But what's surprising is, Bruce, you're seeing actually the opposite of what you said, kind of, I think, that we're seeing dollar appreciation here. So the yen is actually weakened.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that.
Because they've been trying to get out of the yen into the dollar.
Yeah. So, but it's quite interesting. It's kind of the opposite of what people would think. Really.
Right? It's counterintuitive to what should happen, but that's some of the reports I was reading and listening to this morning. That was one of the things that they're saying is that it had to do as well with the minimum wage hikes and everything like that, which were like in some areas like 40% wage hikes.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not a good situation for the Japanese economy. I mean, they're raising rates, as you say, only 10 basis points is nothing effectively. But the yen strengthened on the back of it, and I suppose maybe, sorry, not the yen strengthened, the yen weakened off the back of it. And I'm not quite sure why. When you're raising rates, normally you'd expect the currency to appreciate because obviously, you're getting paid more interest to hold your money in yen, and yet the yen depreciated. So maybe the market is judging that the Japanese economy is in a bit of a mess, and this is kind of a knee-jerk reaction. I mean, 10 basis points really isn't enough to make any difference, I suspect. It's just paying lip service. So maybe that's what the market's thinking. This is just not enough. And so the yen basically fell very, very sharply when they basically don't do enough. And that's kind of the same story in America. And I wonder what's going to happen with the US dollar. We'll see. But I don't think that the authorities, the Fed in America, are able to do enough. They can't because their hands are tied. Because we've said over and over, inflation is too high, but growth is falling. What can they do? And all they can do.
As well, I mean, we just keep printing money. I mean, these guys they're addicted to printing money. I mean, that's like the only thing that they know how to do. And so if the only thing you know how to do is print money, what do? You print more money. I mean, they're literally trying to print money to battle inflation.
Yeah, I mean, they really are in a mess. You see, this was a very, very, I mean, I don't like to say it, foolish experiment. I mean, basically to print money in this way to stimulate the economy. We've said before, it doesn't create real productivity. It just puts money into risk assets. So printing money, it's like taking a drug that once you started on this drug taking frenzy or whatever you want to call it, you cannot stop, because if you stop, the body kind of shuts down, you go into cold turkey, etc. That would be the same thing with the economy. If they were to stop printing money, the economy would shrink massively. Money would flow out of risk assets. There'd be absolute panic. And so they're kind of now into a vicious spiral of having to print more and more and more money. And I'm not sure whether anybody knows that if there's a way out. They've talked about and they've dreamt about a soft landing for the US economy, but I don't know quite how that can happen when they've got to keep interest rates so high. I'm not sure whether and yet they're printing money, as you say, as well. So they're doing two opposing things. Keeping interest high, which restricts the economy, but printing money to expand the economy. So they're doing two things. And it's partly because it's election year, but partly because they're just in a general mess anyway. And they're not the only ones. This is actually all around the world. America's obviously the biggest economy, but as you said, they've been printing money in China, they've been printing money in the US, in Europe, wherever you look, and it's not a good solution. And I don't know really what the thinking was behind it. It's a difficult one. So we're just the people who have to carry the can, unfortunately, the general public who have to carry the can that they kicked down the road for so long. Yeah. But the day of reckoning is coming soon. So
that's for
and it'll be something like a geopolitical event that will actually tip it over the edge. The straw that breaks the camel's back. Yeah. Will be something like that. So let's keep a close eye anyway on DXY, on the price of oil, on events in the Middle East. And all we can do is trade according to that. Just interestingly, as I say, the only asset that's the only asset that's really moving positively here is actually Bone, that book of memes, now up 6%, 6.11% right now as we speak. And it's crazy that in a world of assets, real assets, it's actually almost a joke asset, a meme, which is stealing the limelight and performing in such a positive way, when the rest of the market, and if we looked even at the stock markets, just having a quick glance at the stock markets now, where we're at. Okay, so the FTSE has fallen into negative, the Hang Seng was negative. I'm sure you've been through these. And Bitcoin very negative.
I actually this morning didn't go through those so much. It's kind of a crazy day.
So the real asset
is down.
Yeah, so all I'm saying is the world's kind of upside down. The real assets have been falling drastically, and we've got a meme coin here with virtually nothing behind it. It's actually it's up between 5 and 6%. It's just now up 5.5%, jumping around. But all the real assets are falling very sharply, while a meme coin is rising. So that tells you something about the crazy state of where we are. So, your talk about, investing in gold. Gold is, I'm not saying put everything into gold, but definitely I still believe wholeheartedly in diversification. And gold is a good asset to hold, even though it's down a little bit today, down 1/3% today, but it's still that hedge against inflation. So let's just see, again, tomorrow is really key. Let's just see what they come out with on interest rates. They're going to stay stable, the interest rate, but let's just see what the commentary is around it. And if we can get some clarity about where the US economy is going to go, because all these assets hang on what he's saying. And you'll actually see, as you listen to the commentary and the press conference tomorrow night, you'll see really vast swings in the value of a lot of these assets. So it is one definitely to watch. But hopefully tomorrow, I'm trying to get somebody in who's a real expert on Solana.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will, because as I said before, it's the asset which normally, not the case today, because I think it's just gone up so much recently that it's having quite a sharp pullback. But in general, over a period of time, Solana rises more and falls less than the other crypto assets. But today, it's among the bigger losers today.
Yeah, I mean, it went up so high, it's got to pull back.
Yeah. And again, ICP, it was one of the big gainers. It's having a very sharp pullback today. It's down 11.5% so far today. But you can see this move to the upside is still kind of a corrective move. Again, there's no clear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's more like an A, and an ABC for a B, and then a C wave to the upside. So that being a corrective move to the upside means to me that it's still impulsive to the downside. So I do still expect probably a bit lower with this asset and most other assets. I mean, I'm quite shocked at Bitcoin with the support we had. Right now, 62,700, and it's really falling has fallen quite a bit. But we've got to expect pullbacks. We'd be foolish not to expect some decent pullbacks along the way, because the gains have been phenomenal. From that FTX low of 15,500, we're still 4 times higher than that level. So, people who invested, back then, they've made a lot of money, and especially in the Grayscale Trust. So that's why a lot of money is flowing out of Grayscale still. And that's part of what's draining the price of these assets away at the moment. A lot of people say it's the end. I've heard people say, not a lot of people, I've heard people say the bull market is over. I think it's a little bit premature to say that. This looks like a perfectly normal correction at the moment. Kind of ABC correction. So it's to be expected. At the moment, it's way too premature to say the bull market is over, and I think we still have some more highs to come, hopefully. Yep.
It is very high. I mean, historically, well, this time in between, though, I mean, if we could be in for a 20 to 40% pullback, I mean, historically, that's what happens in between 60 days and the halvening. Now, there's so much money involved now that it's hard to say if that will happen, but historically, that's what happens.
Yeah, that's interesting. We looked at that the other day, didn't we? The various halving events and what happened to price around that. And another one we looked at quite a bit is the S&P 500. And as I said, this final wave looked to be in some kind of corrective fashion: ABW, X, ABY, X, ABZ. So the Z is the end of it, a triple correction, some kind of triple correction here. It's unusual, but markets do sometimes go in sets of 3 waves, and that's what appears to have happened here, 3 sets of 3, finishing with this Z wave culminating here, and we do seem to pull back quite sharply. We'll see what happens today. So far, it's looking a little bit negative bias. I suspect it will push to the downside. So that Z may be the short-term top. So we may actually potentially get that sort of correction that you're talking about. That's a real possibility. So that's why I always say, protect your positions. Never just believe it's going in one direction, because nobody knows for certain. So the art of trading is actually to try to not only make profits, but once you've made them, protect them. And that's firm advice here.
Protect your profits. It's a very important part of the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and I think there's a lot of people sitting on some good profit, as I say, especially with Bitcoin has been phenomenal. eBay has just had a tiny bit of a pullback. It's actually one of the bright spots in the market. I looked on CoinGecko just to see where it was.
Look at
Looking
that.
pretty good. Up 4.6.
Oh, yeah, there it is. eBay. It's all green today.
Up
See,
4.
David and I are working on a rap, so I'm starting to rhyme a bit more. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah, up 4.6 today in a down market. So that's what it says on CoinGecko. It depends on the starting point that you're measuring from. I mean, it's actually down 0.5% depending on what point of the day you start to measure it. CoinGecko has it up 4.6. This has it down 0.5, but even so, it's outperforming the market. And all these big upgrades are due out on the 29th of March throughout April. And so I'm expecting, and again, no guarantees, but I do expect some quite solid price appreciation and improvements to the liquidity situation. So it should become much more tradable, and I believe should be quite buoyant. One of the better assets, I believe, and has real use case behind it, not like the meme coins, which actually have nothing behind them whatsoever, apart from just an opportunity to get rich or to lose your money. Because it's a bit like these memes are like Ponzi schemes. Basically, it's the last person in is the one holding the bag. So they go up and up and up, and then eventually it can't go any further, and then people rush to the exit. And that's what
it can be both. I mean, look at the doggy coin, look at SHIB. I mean, it can be both. But yes, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of them, so of course there's a lot of that too. But of doggy coin was initially started as a kind of a joke.
Yeah, but it now has some real use case behind it, so it's actually very different. Not really a meme coin anymore. It's actually evolved from being a meme coin because they put money to good use and have actually developed some use cases behind it. And
those markets are so liquid. I mean, just those are some of the most liquid markets you have.
Yeah. And the book of memes, we talked about it just a moment ago, being up 5%. Just while I've been speaking, it's now at 10.7%. So there's some real opportunities to be found amongst these, but they are high risk. And I just wanted to emphasize that yesterday and today. These meme coins are ultra high risk, definitely ultra high opportunity as well. But you've got to be prepared to lose your money if you go into meme coins in general.
We are
so
moving.
if you go to learnhowtotrade.club, you can join the trading course that Matt is head of. We have put together a 10% discount for everybody watching, and that's Trade Smart 10. Trade Smart 10. So you go to learnhowtotrade.club, Trade Smart 10, and you can start to learn to trade like the pros. Only 5% of people make money in trading. 5%. So don't think that you're just going to run around and make a bunch of money without knowing what you're doing, because you might get lucky a few times, and then you'll find that you'll overtrade. That's one of the biggest. There's like 50 ways you can do it wrong, and there's like 1 or 2 or 3 ways you can do it right. You know what I mean? So you want to take all the advantages you can get.
It's interesting you picked that one out. That's actually probably the number one mistake that people make. They overtrade. So the problem is when you're successful, if you're not successful straight away, you'll just burn out and you'll probably not do it again. But a lot of people sometimes have a couple of good successes or lucky successes, and then they trade too much, basically looking for opportunities that aren't there. And that is probably the number one mistake I would say that rookies make when trading. So we cover
Number
that.
one rookie mistakes: overtrade.
Yeah, and we discuss a lot of things. With some of the AMAs and interactive sessions, we can actually look at the opportunities such as meme coins and try to again steer people away from some of the risks, and maybe just steer them towards the opportunities as well, because there are still opportunities. They're just part of the whole ecosystem that can be used to your advantage potentially, but. Like everything, it's got to be in context and
got to be in context. Well, I mean, the thing is, we've talked a lot about it on the show, guys, and Bitcoin, Litecoin, Global Boost. There's a few other ones, but these are the original proof of work blockchains. They cannot be altered. They cannot be stopped. They can't be taken by court order. All of these other tokens can be great to make money and lose money, but they can be great. You can do a lot of stuff with them. You can make a lot of money. But that is a completely controllable token. It can be stopped. It can be frozen. It keeps the thing. So just need to understand what you're dealing with. These meme tokens, everything like that. They can be used very effectively. But just you got to know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of important aspects, as you said. Those aspects are very, very important. But also, I think when you're looking at tokens, look at the utility of the token. Does it have utility? And one of the problems eBay had actually in the early days, and even right up to today, really, we didn't really have the utility built in, which is one of the reasons why we have gone to one of the top token security companies in the world to reassess that and to actually ensure that we have proper utility. That means that the token actually has use, has economic use, reason for people to hold the token. So by holding the token, you actually get some benefits from holding it. And that's what another really important aspect of a crypto. If you're looking to invest in a crypto long term, then those are things you need to look at. Short term, completely different. Meme coins don't have any utility whatsoever. They're just basically a pump and dump mechanism, a gambling mechanism. That's all they are.
Well, they can be, but again, it's not all of them. You know, there are meme coins that make it. Floki is another one. I mean, these are major currencies, but there are a lot of them. So of course, when there is a lot of them, there is that. But yeah, absolutely. They're quite. It's an interesting phenomenon for sure.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, they're actually, a very interesting part of the ecosystem and some of them actually put the money that's raised to good use. I mean,
Yes.
like Doge, for example, Doggy, they put it and they've actually, now built their own blockchain and there's all sorts of use cases built on it. So that's fantastic. So sometimes, these can actually develop and evolve into something really useful.
Leadership has a lot to do with it in the team. Leadership in the team.
Yeah. So
We know
definitely
that. Look at
look at who's behind. Yeah, absolutely. Look at who's behind it. Very important.
Awesome.
Good.
Well, great show today, guys. It's pretty interesting, everything that's going on. We are at a pivotal moment in the history of finance and the history of the world, and in the history really of this central banking system, I think, that's going on. I think people are starting to lose faith. They're starting to understand a bit more about the central banking system. It's still hard to get their head around because it's just hard to understand that people can just print money and do it. It's probably easier for us crypto guys to understand because we mint money, and it's like my friend used to say, it's the magic internet money. But that's what's going on, and so they're not all knowing. It's going to be very interesting. Really, all eyes on the Fed tomorrow.
Yeah. Funny thing is, they print money without rules. At least within crypto, money is created with rules.
Yes.
Through etc. And actually, there are limits on it. Whereas with central banks, there's actually no rules. They make up the rules as they go along. Genuinely.
Yes. Then that's how you have a cartel system that's throughout the world. So pretty interesting. Well, amazing. Another great show, guys. We'll be back on your TV in about 5 hours. Matt, we'll see you again in the morning tomorrow, and looking forward to that. And we're getting ready to hit the tour as well, so we're looking forward to that too.
Absolutely. All right. Cheers for that. Thank you,
Cheers,
David.
guys.
Catch you soon. Bye-bye.
Signing off. Cheers.
Stay tuned and you'll stay lucrative.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.